Many of us wonder if we can be fair and rich at the same time. But is that possible in today's society? Today, we will talk to Alish, a person who has suffered a serious economic problem. Hello, Alish. Tell us what it was about and how did you solve it?
My wife and I, about 3 years ago, suffered misfortune that left us without money. This consisted of a medical problem that my mother had. It caused us to have to pay a large amount of money. Specifically, it was a kidney transplant. This caused us to have to think about a way to have money quickly. The two had the idea of starting a new company that deals with the easy, fast, and safe transplantation of organs for hospital and medical areas all over the world. Merit is not where you're born, but where you decide to go. It is not fair game, but one where you can advance.
Thank you very much. Now we will talk to a very experienced person in this subject, Sofia, the representative of the Spanish Stock Exchange. Sofia, do you think the economy is fair today, or is it unfair as many years ago?
From my position as a representative of the stock exchange, I believe that the justice of a country is related to its wealth. In other words, the wealth of a country can sometimes be harmed by other aspects, such as the rules, inequalities of opportunities, and the failing institutions of a country. This causing the country to lose wealth, which will worsen its economy and will give rise to negative aspects, and in addition, fewer possibilities for the future for this country. However, in terms of justice, I can clarify that currently the economy is not entirely fair in the stock exchange. In fact, the current system offers tools that can create prosperity, such as financial markets, innovation, or entrepreneurship. But not everyone achieves it under the same conditions, and this is a big problem called economic inequality.
Since you have talked about the wealth of a country, what does exactly mean that a country has it?
Currently, society only thinks of money when we talk about the wealth of a country. However, at the Spanish Stock Exchange, we understand that the wealth of a country is not measured only in money, but also in the set of opportunities, investments, and actions that the country generates and is capable of creating.
And finally, if you could change just one thing to make markets fairer, what could it be?
I would propose that everyone knows how the stock exchange works, so it will facilitate information and understanding of the system, either with graphs, examples, etc. This will provide a series of benefits since we will gain participants. There will not be so many inequalities of opportunities since everyone will be able to understand how the company works, and it will reduce the privilege for the people who dominate the system.
Thank you very much. Now we give a warm welcome to Maria, an entrepreneur woman who has been very successful, which is why now is earning a big high salary. Hello, Maria. We are delighted to be with your company. Tell us how have you managed to create a successful company that not only generates profits but also respects workers, offers quality products, and contributes to the well-being of society and the environment.
First of all, I want to say that I'm very proud to be here with you and to talk about my company. I'm very satisfied with my company, which goes beyond creating money, focusing on justice, product quality, and the satisfaction of both workers and buyers. My path has been long and conscious, and I have always maintained a commitment to society. When founding the ski pants company, I praised really quality and sustainability using ecological materials and incorporating technology to improve performance. Production, which is a very important part, also focus on making smart decisions to invest in sustainability, machinery, and personnel. I strive to guarantee fair wages and equal conditions in the factory, which are fundamental to the smooth functionality of the company. I'm aware of the value I generate and the importance of the well-being and operation of the team for its performance, which is a very important part of making a company.
Thank you very much for being here with us. We hope to see you here soon again. Now, we will invite Juan and Joanna to the interview, the workers of two very different companies, one large and one small. Good afternoon to both of you. Now, if you like, we will start a small debate to find out the advantages and disadvantages that the two types of companies have in society. For example, Joanna, let's start with you. Explain what you believe are the main advantages of working in a large company and that it is reflected in the fair economy.
Okay, as an economist, I usually use the supply and demand model to analyze the market because it allows me to quickly see how prices are formed and what makes them rise or fall. By comparing how many people want to buy a product and how much company offer, I can understand whether the marketing is balanced or not.
And now, from your point of view, Joan, explain what you believe are the main advantages of working in a small company and that it is reflected in the fair economy. Thank you for inviting me to your program.
The first advantage is the closeness, as you probably know the owner directly, not just an anonymous manager. Relationships are more personal, communication is direct, and the team is often a family. This is reflected in the fact that the fair economy values community and human dignity. This environment fosters trust, loyalty, and the mutual support system that is often lost in giant corporate structures. You feel valued as a person, not just an employee. The second advantage is the agility that exists in small companies, which does not exist in the large one. For example, you can speak directly to the decision maker and see it in employment quickly. This is why we can say that there is less bureaucracy. This promotes agility and personal responsibility. In a fair economy, it is valued that workers have control over their work and can see the fruit of their efforts, which is very rewarding and encourages innovation from the bottom up. And finally, the third advantage is the local focus and authentic sustainability. This means that many small businesses depend on local suppliers. This is why we can say that the fair economy prioritizes territorial roots and local sustainability. The money you spend on the salary you earn stays circulating in your own community, strengthening in the local economy instead of going to the headquarters of a multinational in other countries. This is real economic sustainability.
Next, we will analyze the data in the following graphs. We can see that the country with the highest GDP would be the United States, followed by China, Japan, Germany, and the United Kingdom. The second graph that we find is that of the world economic debt. We can see that they are more or less the same countries. The United States with 29.6%, Japan with 19.99%, and China with 6.25%. This tells us that, for example, the United States has a lot of GDP. This is because countries that have a lot of debt usually have a lot of GDP to be able to pay it. The same happens with Japan and China. So the conclusion that we can draw is that the countries with a lot of debt will have to have a lot of GDP to be able to pay it, and countries that have little debt and little GDP may have economic problems in the future since they will not have able in the future since they will not be able to pay it. Finally, we find this graph of the stock market. We can see that the United States is the main one. Then there is Japan, and finally the United Kingdom. They are more or less the same as in the previous graphs, since these countries have many shares and therefore have few profits. So the conclusion from the third graph that we can draw is that the United States is the main country that has a very good economy and also very high.